the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, the Registrar, University Librarian, Provost of the College of Medicine, Dean, Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences, Deans of other faculties, the postgraduate school and of students, directors of institutes and centers, members of the University Senate, heads of departments, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The 444th in the University of Ibadan Inaugural Lecture Series will be delivered this evening by Professor Yinusa Raji of our Department of Physiology on behalf of the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences. Born on 1st January 1965 to the family of Pa Adisa Raji of blessed memory and Mrs. Abeni Raji of Additional's Compound, Ede, in Osun State, the young Raji commenced his elementary education at Young Tajuddin Primary School, Ogbagba Village, Ede, from 1971 till 1976. He was at Ede Muslim Grammar School for his honorary level West African School Certificate from 1976 till 1982. He joined Baptist High School, Ede, in 1983 for his higher school certificate, A-levels, which he completed in 1984, and was later that year offered admission to study for a BSc Physiology degree of this university, which he completed successfully in 1987. He participated in the Youth Service Corps scheme at School of Health Technology of in Kwara State between 1987 and 1988. Later that year, he returned to the University of Ibadan for his master's and PhD degrees in physiology, which he completed in 1990 and 1995 respectively. The then Dr. Raji joined his services in the Department of Physiology as assistant lecturer with effect from 1st July 1991, and he was promoted lecturer 2 on 1st October 1993, lecturer grade 1 with effect from 1st October 1996, and he was appointed as senior lecturer on 14th August year 2000. He was promoted reader with effect from 1st October 2006 and professor with effect from 1st October 2010. Till date, he has over 110 publications in reputable journals to his credit. He has successfully supervised over 150 BSc Physiology final year projects, over 80 MSc dissertations, and 12 PhD theses. One of his former students is now a professor and former head of department, and he delivered his inaugural lecture last year at this same venue. Others are also established academics in their own rights, either as readers or senior staff, who are holding leadership positions in the Nigerian university system, as well as other establishments within and outside Nigeria. In year 2007, the then Dr. Raji was among the 16 admitted globally into the Philadelphia Institute of the Foundation for Advancement in International Medical Education and Research, United States of America, for a leadership program in medical education, which he completed with distinction in 2009. This fellowship training took him to some universities in the United States, Sudan, and South Africa. He had further training in reproductive physiology at the key laboratory for molecular andrology, Shanghai Institute for Biological Sciences, Shanghai, China, between 2008 and 2011. Within this university, our inaugural lecturer has served in several capacities, including but not limited to being Assistant Coordinator General Studies Program in the College of Medicine, University of Ibadan, 1991 to 1994, Departmental Coordinator of Academic Programs, 1998 to 2002, and 2007 till 2010, Sub-Dean BSc Programs, Faculty of Medical Sciences, College of Medicine, 1998 till 2002, and 2010 till date. Member of Senate, 1998 till 2005, and from 2010 till date. Member College Curriculum Committee in 2014. He was member Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences Curriculum Development Committee, August to July 2018. He served as All Master Abubakar Salami All, May 2014 to January 2016. Editorial Board Member, African Journal of Medicine and Medical Sciences, 1998 to 2006. Assistant Editor-in-Chief, African Journal of Medicine and Medical Sciences, 2014 till date, and head Department of Physiology with effect from August 2016, a position he still occupies. Under his leadership, the Department of Physiology was voted the best department by the medical students in 2018. Outside this university, Professor Raji has served meritoriously as external examiner for undergraduate and postgraduate programs to many universities, including the University of Lagos, University of Benin, Obafemi Awolowo University Ile-Ife, University of Nigeria, Enugu Campus, and Igbinedion University, Okada, Gulbarga University, India, and University of D. Witwatersrand, Johannesburg, South Africa, among others. He is an assessor of candidates for promotion to professorial grades in many universities in Nigeria and a reviewer for many reputable local and international journals. He has led the NUC's accreditation and resource verification panels to many Nigerian universities. Professor Raji is a member of several professional societies, including the Physiological Society of Nigeria, African Association of Physiological Society, and the Physiological Society of United Kingdom. Also, Public Responsibility in Medicine and Research USA, and African Association of Biomedical Scientists, just to mention a few. He has received support for his research and travels from the University of Ibadan Senate Research Grants, Wellcome Trust, UNESCO, Chinese Academy of Sciences, TED Fund, SciSoc UK, and FIMA USA. Professor Raji is married to Dr. Emi Raji, and the marriage is blessed with promising children. I now call on Professor Raji to deliver his lecture titled Benevolence and Malevolence, the Curious Wonder of Natural Agents on Reproductive Physiology.
Provost of the College of Medicine, Dean of the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences, Dean of the Postgraduate School, Deans of other faculties and of students, Directors of Institute, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I stand before you in this hall today with the deepest sense of honor, gratitude, praise, and adoration to Almighty Allah for this wonderful opportunity to deliver an inaugural lecture on behalf of the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences. I thank the Dean, Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences, for nominating me. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, before I begin my lecture, permit me to tell a short story. I humbly stand before you, the son of a farmer who was being raised and trained to follow in the vocation of his father. It was his dream that I would grow into becoming a successful farmer who will carry on his legacy in a small village called Ogbagba in Ede, Osun State. So it was by a simple stroke of good fortune that I happened to be at home when one of the teachers at a newly established primary school, Mr. Gani, paid a courtesy visit to my father. After a short interaction, Mr. Gani took a sudden interest in me, was impressed by my level of intelligence, and requested I be allowed to come to the school. My father vehemently refused, as he believed school was an unnecessary distraction from his goal. Mr. Gani was adamant, as he insisted that formal education would make me a better farmer. In order not to disrespect his guest, my father eventually agreed to enroll me for the next academic session, as the school was already in the third term. Mr. Gani again insisted he allowed me to join immediately, and my father reluctantly agreed. I thank God that I did not disappoint Mr. Gani and my father, as I came forth out of the 88 pupils in the new school and eventually received the highest number of prizes at the first anniversary of the Young Tajudeen Primary School, Ogbagba Village, Ede, Osun State. That experience marked the beginning of a journey which has culminated in today's event. I will remain eternally grateful to the Almighty for bringing me this far. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I stand before this distinguished audience today to deliver the 444th inaugural lecture of this 70-year-old university, the 41st in the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences, the 5th in the 70-year-old Department of Physiology, and the first from the Reproduction and Developmental Programming Unit of the department. The first 3 inaugural lectures were delivered by my teachers, former heads of department, and former deans of the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences. Professor Aro Elegbe of blessed memory delivered the first lecture in 1984 titled Physiology, Genesis and Revelation of Medicine. Professor Didi Oyebola delivered the second in 1987 titled Hospitals or Healers, The Dilemma of Nigeria Patient. Professor Adeyombo Folashade Bolarinwa delivered the third in 2002 titled Living Certainty for Uncertainty, From the Stomach to the Womb, The Journey So Far, while the fourth was delivered by Professor A.R.O. Alada in 2015 titled The God, a Novel Participant in Glucose Homeostasis. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, distinguished audience, the title of my lecture is Benevolence or Malevolence, the Curious Wonder of Natural Agents on Reproductive Physiology. It was not too challenging to make the choice of this title, having been working in the area of reproductive physiology since the inception of my academic career. My journey into reproductive physiology research began during my MSc degree program here at the University of Ibadan, when I was unexpectedly allocated to Dr. Oluremi Martins as my supervisor. I say unexpectedly because the fear of Dr. Martins was the beginning of wisdom for students of the department. And I had skipped a few meals to augment my prayers, not to be assigned to her. All students and staff of the department knew Dr. Martins as a tough lecturer with a sparse sense of humor, who would not condone any nonsense whatsoever. My initial decision was to abandon the MSc program. But after some consultations, I decided to take it in good faith, work hard, and be diligent. The Holy Quran says in chapter 2, verse 153, I quote, "O ye who believe, seek help with patient perseverance and prayer, for God is with those who patiently persevere." End of quote. After subjecting me to a preliminary series of intense academic assignments, she eventually accepted to supervise my work. She then gave me the task of exploring the actions of excessive consumption of cassava diet and its constituent cyanogenic glycosides on the reproductive functions of female Wister rat. It was a Herculean task which involved several hours of monitoring estrous cycles of Wister rat using the cumbersome perpendicular staining technique, which was one of the best histological staining techniques available at the time. I prepared over 1,000 slides to ascertain the phases of the estrous cycles of the animals within 2 months. Today, there exists the estrous cycle monitor EC40 that uses a measure of impedance to determine estrous electronically, and the Marcondis technique with which estrous cycles of rats can be monitored more conveniently. To the glory of God, I was able to survive through a dint of hard work, resilience, perseverance, and a lot of prayers. At the end of the master's program, my project was adjudged the best, and I graduated with the best overall result in the class. This feat contributed to my nomination by Professor Adeyombo Folashade Bolarinwa, the then acting head of the department, for the postgraduate school teaching assistantship, with which I commenced my PhD in the same department in 1990. About a year later, Professor Bolarinwa magnanimously facilitated my appointment as assistant lecturer in the same department. Early in my studies, Dr. Martins introduced me to Professor Temitayo Shokunbi, with whom I performed further studies into the neurological effect of cassava diet in offspring of Wister rat. Before her retirement, she also introduced me to Dr. Ebere Nduka, the then acting director of the Postgraduate Institute of Medical Research and Training, PIMRAT, now IMRAT, who eventually accepted to co-supervise my work with Professor Adeyombo Bolarinwa in the area of male reproductive physiology. Under their tutelage, I was able to obtain laboratory training in tissue culture and radioimmunoassay techniques at PIMRAT, the Immunology Unit of Chemical Pathology in UCH, as well as the National Institute of Medical Research, Yaba, Lagos. This training enabled me to realize the direct effect diet could have on reproductive functions. This newly acquired knowledge challenged my village boy beliefs that all natural agents, particularly natural products of medicinal plant origin, were always safe to human physiology. The saying, Tibitiri Ladaliaye, that is, each creation has its own good and bad attributes, now took on a whole new meaning to me. And in collaboration with my supervisors, I embarked on studies on the interplay among hormones, natural products, and drugs on reproductive functions. Hence, the title of my PhD thesis is Hormones and Drugs Stimulation of Testosterone Secretion. Physiology research. Reproductive physiology is the study of the processes through which living organisms procreate. The reproductive system is made up of distinct cells, tissues, and organs, which are formed in utero, but only mature and begin to function at puberty. The organs of the reproductive system are well vascularized and innervated, thus their functions are regulated by an elaborate interplay of the neural and endocrine systems. The male reproductive organs consist of the testes, ductal system, penis, and glands, which interact with one another, as well as with their neuroendocrine controllers to ensure delivery of their functions. These functions include secretion of male sex hormones, production, maintenance, and transport of male gamete called spermatozoa, and discharge of spermatozoa into the female reproductive tract during sexual intercourse. The female reproductive system has a few more unique features than the male reproductive system. The main distinction is the presence of a uterus or womb in women. As a matter of fact, some schools of thought opine that the etymological designation woman is believed to be a combination of the two words, womb and man. Thus, female reproductive function encompasses gametogenesis, post-coital conception, gestation, parturition, lactation, as well as the hormonal event which regulate these processes. Spermatozoa introduced into the female reproductive tract following sexual intercourse become motile and swim up to the fallopian tubes, where they meet and fuse with the ovum in a process called fertilization. A human being is conceived at fertilization, hence the synonym conception. Any process carried out to prevent conception is therefore called contraception. The manifestation of normal anatomy and physiology in an individual is determined by the quality of the gamete, which fuse to produce it. Factors which affect gamete quality could be genetic or epigenetic. Genetic factors refer to triggers of mutations in gene composition, while epigenetic factors refer to environmental insult transmitted to the offspring via chemical modifications on genes. Both factors result in phenotypic or physical manifestations. However, those due to epigenetic modifications may not be manifested until adult life and are most times missed completely because they are not expected. This process, referred to as developmental programming, is responsible for the non-parental or non-genetic origin of many non-communicable diseases, such as cardiovascular diseases, diabetes mellitus, and cancers that are prevalent today, according to Baker 1995. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, my research activities focus mainly on natural agents that could modify indices of reproductive physiology. Many such natural agents and their mechanisms of action, with their implications on fertility, were investigated by both in vivo and in vitro experimental models. Such agents include, among others, nicotine and medicinal extract from various plants. The continuous use of these agents, especially in less developed countries, such as Nigeria, and the report that some medicinal plant extracts, especially those with antimicrobial activities, are involved in gonadal toxicity, strengthened my interest in this area. My work, therefore, encompasses the modification of reproductive physiology indices by this agent at three main levels, namely general reproductive functions, erectile functions, and developmental programming. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, about 8 to 12% of couples experience infertility worldwide. In sub-Saharan Africa, the prevalence of infertility is as high as 30%, and the male contribution in most countries, including Nigeria, have been variously estimated to be between 30 to 50%. Ubuaja Eto 2010, Uwulabi Eto 2013. Many of the couples are now turning to natural remedies for respite. On the other hand, the rising human population, particularly in developing and underdeveloped countries, has made the fertility control an issue of important public concern. My research, therefore, have shown that many medicinal plant substances interfere with male reproductive physiology. In the course of my studies, a simple microscopic technique for investigating the effect of medicinal plant extract on male reproductive functions was standardized. Similarly, I was able to develop an in vitro experimental model for investigating the mechanisms of action of hormones, drugs, and natural agents on reproductive functions. Raji 1999-2000. Using these methods, the impact of Quassia amara, Asagittaria indica, Astonia bonae, Burindia lucida, Ricinus communis, Capolobia lutea, Sphenocentrum junianum, and Tridus procumbens on male reproductive physiology, in addition to Ricinus communis, oil, Carica papaya seeds, and cassava diet on female reproductive physiology were reported. Quassia amara is a tropical plant reputed in traditional medicine to have goods to market, Raji and Oloyede 2012, anti-anemic, Raji 2010, cytotoxic, antibiotic, and anti-malaria properties, Traeger and Polonsky 1981, Ajayi Oba Eto 1999. The main bioactive constituent of the plant are quasinoids, which are found to be active against chloroquine-resistant Plasmodium falciparum. Many anti-malaria and antimicrobial agents have been reported to have negative effects on reproductive functions. With the growing interest in the development of anti-malaria drugs from Quassia amara, we subjected this medicinal plant to reproductive activity investigation. We then prepared extract from its stem wood, purified the extract, and isolated the active principles, namely quercetin and 2-methoxycanthin-6-one. Using an in vitro experimental model, where Leydig cells from the testes were isolated, cultured, and incubated with the plant extract, quercetin and 2-methoxycanthin-6-one. In the presence or absence of luteinizing hormone, we reported significant inhibition of steroidogenesis by the extract and quercetin, but not 2-methoxycanthin-6-one. Nja Eto 1995. This was the foremost report on the anti-fertility activity of Quassia amara in male rat. This outcome prompted us to carry out detailed in vivo study. Our results showed that Quassia extract and quercetin, but again not 2-methoxycanthin-6-one, adversely affected some male reproductive functions. There was a considerable reduction in weight of the testes, epididymis, and seminal vesicle, which was accompanied by a reduction in sperm count. There was also a remarkable decrease in the serum levels of testosterone, luteinizing hormone, follicle-stimulating hormone, which was accompanied by a significant increase in weight of the anterior pituitary gland, Raji and Bolarinwa, 1997. These observations suggest that action of Quassia extract and quercetin on male reproduction may be mediated via multiple sites, including the testes, the epididymis, the mature sperm, and the hormonal regulatory system. The involvement of the hormonal regulatory system was supported by the reversible action of luteinizing hormone supplement on testosterone secretion. The evidence that Quassia extract and quercetin negatively affected testosterone production was examined further in Leydig cells isolated from rat testes. Our results suggest that the extract and quercetin caused inhibition of steroidogenesis, but did not seem to affect the viability of the Leydig cells in vivo, that is within the body, according to Raji and Bolarinwa 1997. This finding is corroborated by our earlier report that methanol extract of Quassia and quercetin were not leader to Leydig cells in vitro. Furthermore, the reversible action of quassia extract on steroidogenesis agreed with the in vivo study in which normal male reproductive functions were restored following 8 weeks of extract withdrawal. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, we had also at various times reported the anti-ulcer and anti-anemic activities of some of the natural agents and their secondary metabolite in experimental animal models, thereby justifying the use of some of them in traditional medicine for the treatment of related ailments. Raji et al. 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2011, Raji and Oloyede 2012. It is therefore curious to wonder why a plant and its secondary metabolite with many benevolent activities will produce such malevolent activities on reproductive physiology in males. In the United States of America, quassia extract was used in alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages as well as in baked goods, Hall and Ulcer 1965. The opinion of the Scientific Committee of the European Commission Health and Consumer Protection Directorate General on Food on Quercetin, released on July 25, 2002, lends credence to our findings on the male reproductive toxicity of quercetin. This led to more studies being carried out in different laboratories around the world. Paraffin et al. 2003 and Fesa et al. 2006 carried out studies on male reproductive toxicity of quassia extract. Their report independently showed that in addition to significant reduction in sperm parameters, some morphological abnormalities like coil tail, lasso-like sperm and fusion of tails were observed. Since male reproductive toxicology and male contraception are two sides of the same coin, the negative consequences of quassia amara on the sperm may be taken to advantage for further studies on it and its secondary metabolite for efficacy in male contraception. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, our report on the negative activities of quercetin on male reproductive functions had been applied to block the male reproductive activities of head lice by an industry, Trifolio M in Germany, in an effort to produce pesticide against head lice menace. In 2008 and 2010, Dr. Hubertus Klebach of Trifolio M visited us in Nigeria for possible collaboration, and the collaboration is still ongoing. While the mechanism of quassia amara action on male reproduction had hitherto appeared to rest on multiple levels, Obembe and Raji 2012 reported a decline in capacitated sperm cells in the quassia-treated rat, which could be due to a decrease in protein expression in the epididymal tissues. These activities support its probable action at the epididymal level, for which we also explore the molecular basis using immunohistochemistry. Obembe and Raji 2014 reported concomitant decrease in epididymal sperm capacitation and ONGES1 protein expression in the epididymis of rats that were treated with quassia extract and quercetin. There was a remarkable decrease in hormonal levels accompanied with over 50% reduction in sperm parameters. In vitro extender studies using sperms that were collected from the caudal epididymis of white Fulani cows revealed similar adverse outcomes on the sperm profile. Obembe and Raji 2012 and 2014. When we subjected this sperm to in vitro capacitation studies using Kumasi brilliant blue dye, capacitation and acrosome reaction were observed to decline by over 60%. Therefore, quercetin may mediate its action by repressing ONGES1 expression. Obembe et al. 2014. It should be noted that ONGES1 is an epididymal protein that was discovered by Hugh et al. 2002 and shown by Chol et al. 2008 to critically time sperm capacitation and acrosome reaction. Cohabitation of quassia-treated male rat with fertile female rats showed a decline of about 80% in fertility index. Offspring of the treated rat had lower litter size and litter birth weight. Obembe and Raji 2017. Quassia amara and its bioactive compound quercetin produced no effect on the weight of or cytoarchitecture of the lung, liver, heart, and kidney in our study. Also, serum lipid profile and liver function biomarkers were not affected. Therefore, successful blockade of ONGES1 is a significant step towards unraveling the molecular mechanism of action of quercetin on male reproductive function. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, some of the observations and mechanisms of action in the case of quercetin amara were reported in our studies with other potent antimicrobial medicinal plants such as Azadirachta indica, Astonia bonnae, Morinda lucida, Ricinus communis, Capolobia lutea, Sphenocentrum julianum, and Nestis ferruginea. According to Raji et al. 2003, 2005, 2006, A, B, C, D, E, F. Raji et al. 2009, 2010, Olayemi and Raji 2011, Olayemi et al. 2011. The negative effect of this medicinal plant on male reproduction can therefore be explored in the development of male contraceptive agents. Our findings thus become important, considering the fact that the burden of family planning through contraceptive agents should not rest solely on our women. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, our findings on natural antimicrobial agents of medicinal plant origin led us to investigate the activities of some synthetic antimicrobial drugs on male reproductive functions in mammalian models. We reported that ampicillin, cloxacillin, tetracycline, chloroquine, mefloquine, sulfadoxine, pyrimethamine, proguanil, and artesunate caused significant inhibition of sperm functions through the hypophyseal gonadal epididymal axis in both in vivo and in vivo models. According to Raji et al. 2005 ABC, Raji et al. 2006, Aubaju et al. 2006 and 2010. The abuse and misuse of these drugs could therefore be a major contributory factor to the continuous decline in sperm quality and quantity, and thus fertility potential in male over the last century. We therefore caution that people should avoid use of these drugs without doctor's prescription. The anti-fertility action of two anti-malaria drugs, proguanil and artesunate, were further investigated with a view to unraveling further mechanisms of their anti-fertility potential in males. Our findings from the in vivo study showed a significant adverse effect of both drugs on male reproductive organs and functions, Akinsomisoye and Raji 2011A. The primary cell culture with the drugs in our in vitro study showed a dose and duration-dependent decrease in Sertoli cell viability and an increase in the number of damaged double-stranded DNA of the treated Sertoli cells. However, the genetic expressions of transferrin and glial cell line-derived neurotropic factors appeared normal. Similar results were documented in our laboratory with artesunate, Akinsomisoye and Raji 2011B. It is pertinent to observe an interesting point of our findings to the fact that malaria parasite itself adversely affected male reproductive functions in our study carried out using the rodent malaria parasite Plasmodium baggae, Raji et al. 2006. Studies showed that apart from medicinal drugs, almost any agent which modifies general human physiology may have some form of effect on reproductive function. This led us to a series of studies on the effect of commonly used stimulants such as nicotine and caffeine on reproductive functions. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, habits such as smoking and nicotine use are not easy to surrender because of the addictive nature of these substances. Our studies using male rats have shown that nicotine caused dose-dependent deleterious effect on male reproductive function, which on a long-term basis may be sufficient to cause infertility. Oyipo et al. 2010, 2011 AB, and 2014. Fertility studies on nicotine-treated male rats cohabited with untreated female rat of proven fertility showed a significant reduction in the number of offspring as well as their birth weight. Studies carried out again in our laboratory showed that nicotine administration produced marked oxidative stress impact, as evidenced by a significant increase in serum and testicular lipid peroxidation, as well as the significant decrease in the activities of antioxidant enzymes. Our studies on intervention of nicotine-induced reproductive toxicity has demonstrated profound restoration of the adverse reproductive effect of nicotine in rats co-administered with the nitric oxide synthase inhibitor, L-arginine methyl-ester. Oyeyipo et al. 2015A and B. In another study, we also reported that caffeine treatment for 4 weeks could impair body weight, reproductive organ weight, sperm characteristics, luteinizing hormone, and follicle-stimulating hormone levels, in addition to damage to testicular cytoarchitecture. This effect, however, appeared to be reversible, after caffeine withdrawal. Oluwole et al. 2016. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, having considered the effect of natural and synthetic agents on reproductive functions as outlined above, we went further to investigate their effect and mechanism of action on another very pertinent aspect of male reproductive physiology, namely penile erection. Issues oftentimes arise with achieving and maintaining penile erection. This condition is described as erectile dysfunction, and it is a common problem affecting approximately 50% of men aged 40 to 70 years. It was estimated that more than 152 million men worldwide experienced erectile dysfunction in 1995, and that this number will rise by approximately 322 million by the year 20. 43.8 to 57.4%, according to Fatusi et al. 2003, Shah et al. 2003. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, many plant extracts are traditionally used to improve sexual performance worldwide. Mr. Vice Chancellor, my research efforts with my co-researchers within the realm of reproductive physiology therefore delve into the search of natural agents from medicinal plants that can be beneficial to men who are suffering from the menace of Oyekunle and Raji, 2011, conducted a study aimed at comparing availability, affordability, patronage, and adverse effects of complementary and alternative medicine with orthodox medicine such as Viagra as a remedy for enhancing sexual performance. Over 500 randomly selected adult men with a mean age of 32 years were interviewed across a city in southwestern Nigeria using a structured open and close-ended questionnaire. The information obtained included demographic status, the experience of sexual dysfunction, choice or choices of remedy and reasons, sources of remedies, about 79% alternative medicine users compared to about 7.2% orthodox, 0.6% who neither use the herbal nor orthodox remedy to enhance sexual performance. Research efforts should therefore be geared towards finding and validating natural products with aphrodisiac potentials which are readily available, affordable, and have little or no side effect. We obtained some of the complementary and alternative medicine aphrodisiac herbal preparations, which are commonly used because of their observed potency, and analyzed them for their constituents. Our findings revealed that some of them contain one or more of the plant Capolobia lutea, Sphenocentrum julianum, and Tridus procumbens. We therefore embarked on laboratory investigations on this medicinal plant, Capolobia lutea. The root of Capolobia lutea is an important local medicine widely used in Nigeria. It is used as a bedtime chewing stick, especially by males, because it is reputed as a sexual invigorator. Hence, the traditional Yoruba name, Ogun Aleko, which is literally translated as penile hardening drug. We therefore carried out studies to compare the aphrodisiac efficacy of with Viagra in adult male rabbit. The extract caused a dose-dependent significant increase in month frequency, intromission frequency, and ejaculatory frequency, while it reduced month latency, intromission latency, and post-ejaculatory latency similar to Viagra. These are standard indices of measuring the sexual act, which are useful in studying experimental models. The extract also caused a significant increase in nitric oxide concentration within the corpus cavernosum, that's the penile erectile tissue, but no change in testosterone secretion. Our results therefore suggest that carpolubeal luteal root enhances male sexual activity, possibly by augmenting nitric oxide concentration. Dari et al. 2015. It's important to know that nitric oxide plays an important role in penile erection. This study thus provides a novel baseline scientific rationale for the use of carpolubeal lutea as alternative medicine in the management of erectile dysfunction and impaired libido. The in vitro effect and mechanism of action of the extract from carpolubeal lutea were further evaluated on contractility of rabbit corpus cavernosum smooth muscle. Corpus cavernosum strips obtained from healthy male rabbit were mounted on an organ chamber and pre-contracted with agonist and antagonist. Our results revealed that carpolubeal lutea caused contraction-dependent relaxation of the corpus cavernosum, mediated via activation of soluble guanylate cyclase guanosine monophosphate signaling pathway, and partly attributable to the inhibition of downstream extracellular calcium influx, as well as the inhibition of release of intracellular stored calcium blockage of ATP-sensitive potassium channel, Oduyemi and Raji 2017. Using similar protocols, we investigated the spermatogenic and penile erectogenic activities of internal extract of Sphenocentrum julianum, that's Akerejupan, in rodent. It was concluded from our experiment that Akerejupan root extract improved spermatogenic profile and increased testicular antioxidant activities, Raji et al. 2006b. Our findings also showed that Sphenocentrum julianum root improved mating behavior and enhanced penile smooth muscle relaxation similar to carpolubeal lutea. These actions are linked to the linoleic acid constituent of the plant. Oladokun and Raji 2018. Mr. Vice Chancellor, we also assess comprehensively the implications on reproductive functions when Tridus procumbens leaf extract was used therapeutically in L-arginine ester model of hypertensive male rat. This was contingent on our previous study, which suggested the nitric oxide-dependent pathway in the vasorelaxant activities of the plant. Our results showed that Tridus procumbens leaf extract decreased systolic, diastolic, and mean arterial blood pressure, and thus has an antihypertensive effect, Salami et al. 2017. Similarly, Tridus procumbens leaf extract treatment of L-name-induced hypertensive rat promoted relaxant effect on isolated corporal cavernosal strips, thereby ameliorating erectile dysfunction in hypertensive rat. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, from the foregoing, we have been able to validate the scientific basis for the inclusion of carpolubeal lutea, Sphenocentrum julianum, and Tridus procumbens in some herbal preparations for the treatment of erectile dysfunctions in traditional medicine. The importance of treating or ameliorating penile erectile dysfunction is in two folds: for sexual pleasure and for proper delivery of semen into the female reproductive system for the purpose of procreation. When viable spermatozoa come in contact with the viable ovum, fertilization occurs and the process of embryogenesis begins. Under normal circumstances, embryogenesis proceeds until the fetus is fully formed. It has been postulated that the health of offspring of apparently healthy parents could be compromised during any or all of the stages of development. This is described as developmental programming. This hypothesis of Barker in 1986 evolved into the established concept of developmental programming, has since been validated by several epidemiological, clinical, and experimental studies in different continents of the world, however, with minimal contributions from Africa. In my journey through reproductive physiology, we also ventured into the impact of natural agents on developmental programming. In 2015, we started publishing some invaluable contributions from our Laboratory for Reproduction and Developmental Programming, by demonstrating the effect of natural agents and metabolic or endocrine syndromes on developmental programming. We reported that Wistar rat mothers with hyperglycemia at any of the different stages of gestation had male offspring which manifested negatively altered reproductive functions in adult life. Akindele et al. 2015. Furthermore, we reported that Worcester rat dams treated with caffeine during gestation also had male offspring with deteriorated reproductive functions at maturity. Our subsequent findings showed that POP morphometric indices could be used as a marker of fructose-induced fetal programming in Worcester rat. Kunle Alabi et al. 2015. In 2016, research from our laboratory showed that stressful stimuli such as sleep deprivation elicited at different stages of gestation produce different effects on reproductive functions of male offspring in Worcester rat, and we concluded that the critical period during which fetal male reproductive organ development is adversely programmed by maternal sleep deprivation is during late gestation. Akindele et al. 2016. Our studies also show that maternal dexamethasone treatment during the last week of gestation or during lactation reduced birth weight, delayed puberty, reduced anogenital distance, reduced sperm parameters, and disrupted activities at the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis. JJ et al. 2015 AB 2016, 2016 ABCD. Similarly, we have also shown that maternal exposure to ricinus communis oil at early gestation period impaired androgen-mediated reproductive endpoint in the first and second filial generations of rat. Salami and Raji, 2014, 2015 AB. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, findings emanating from our laboratory have also been focused on possible ways using natural agents by which the impact of developmental programming may be prevented, reduced, or ameliorated. We have shown that the negative impact of neem tree or dongoyaro can be ameliorated with vitamins C and E, which are powerful antioxidants. Raji et al. 2009, Akindele et al. 2014. We have also shown that coconut water can act as therapeutic agent against maternal high-fat diet-induced endocrine alterations and has strong protective effect on the kidneys, heart, and reproductive functions of the offspring in Worcester rat. Kunle Alabi et al. 2014, 2015b, 2016a, 2017a, and 2018. Another natural agent we found to be of interest in preventing developmental programming was watermelon. Our studies showed that watermelon improved metabolic functions in offspring of fructose-fed Worcester rat dams. Asogwa et al. 2017. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I presented my work on the modification of reproductive physiology indices by natural agents at three main levels, namely reproductive functions, erectile dysfunction, and developmental programming. Many of the natural agents are of the medicinal plant origin. It can be deduced that while many of them are useful for the treatment of ailments such as malaria, hypertension, erectile dysfunction, and gastrointestinal disorders, the same agents have been found to disrupt certain normal physiological processes. The good news, however, is that if properly harnessed, the side effects can be eliminated and even turned into benefit for mankind. In my academic journey, I have identified the mechanism for the benevolent activities of some natural agents, and have also profiled possible interventions of their malevolent activities by postulating the role of recovery, the use of some other natural agents, and synthetic agents, particularly antioxidants. The highlight of my academic voyage through natural agents is the benevolence that can be attained when traditional medicine is standardized and appropriately integrated with orthodox medicine. The benevolence of these natural agents can only be maximized for ourselves, our nation, and the world when better funding and conducive research environment are created to enable the translation of these and other research findings into what can be used to better our economy and ultimately our lives. The grossly inadequate funding of the education sector in Nigeria is a cause for worry. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, this university is blessed with capable manpower. What we need are adequate equipment and funding. In this regard, we should increase funding for research facilities and activities. If Nigeria will advance, the government at all levels must invest heavily in research and development and education sector. There are numerous scientists working on natural agents. Several papers are published annually in this area of medicinal plant research in this university alone. Ironically, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the product of such gigantic endeavors are mostly publications, which sometimes are labeled meal tickets, as they are used for promotions only. It is good to publish in order not to perish, but to flourish. But we should be able to match our publications with patents, products, and royalties from our research endeavors. With the activities that are emanating from the Office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Innovation, and Strategic Partnerships, I believe we are padding our canoe of research output in the right direction. It is time to give individual researcher or group of researchers a specific mandate to solve specific problems, such as finding solutions to cancers, diabetes, hypertension, infertility, erectile dysfunction, and overpopulation that are ravaging humanity. This is an opportunity once again to move from observational and mechanistic research to a translational research culture that will ensure from the bench to the bedside and from the bench to the industry, the turn and gun phenomenon for which the university stands. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, physiology is the study of normal functions of the body from its smallest unit, the cell. Hence, it was described as the alpha and omega of medicine by Professor D.D. Oyebola in his inaugural lecture in this university in 1987. Physiology remains so forever. Therefore, any support given to foster the development of the discipline is given to the sustenance of life. Physiology is a discipline that is highly required in the training of medical doctors, nurses, pharmacists, physiotherapists, medical laboratory scientists, amongst others. The discipline, therefore, requires special attention if we are to maintain normal life and living. The ongoing effort at repositioning the Department of Physiology and the discipline of physiology, as well as its applications, is a welcome development, highly commendable, and must be sustained. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, together we shall take the Department of Physiology, University of Ibadan, to the global status of our renewed dreams and vision. At this juncture, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, permit me to acknowledge with thanks all those that have made one contribution or the other to bring me to this status. First, I'd like to give glory and praise to Almighty Allah for His favors and mercies. May He continue to be sufficient for us. I'm immensely grateful to my father, Pa Raji of blessed memory, who, after realizing the importance of education, did everything humanly possible for my education. May Allah continue to make Al-Jannah Firdaus His abode. I thank my mother and all my stepmothers for being pillars of support behind my father and indeed for me. I'm indebted to all my siblings for their support, too numerous to mention here. I will remain eternally grateful to my elder brother, Mr. Yekin Raji, and my uncles, Engineer Mudasir Abisoye, Brother Rashid Abisoye, Engineer Dauda Hassan, and Dr. Mukhtar Hassan for their support. I thank my in-laws for their support. I'm particularly grateful to Professor Muiz Durosimi for his forthrightness and love. I'm very grateful to all my teachers in the Department of Physiology, right from Professor B.O. Amuri, Professor Elegbe, both of blessed memory, Professor Fasamade, Mr. and Mrs. Durasami, Dr. Babatola, Dr. Obi, and Dr. Luremi Martins of blessed memory. I also wish to thank Dr. Ibere Nduka, who was briefly my supervisor and my co-supervisor before he left the university. I'm grateful to Pastor Dr. Lukoya of Naima, Yaba, Lagos, who graciously allowed me to use his laboratory for radioimmunoassay during the initial period of my PhD research. I acknowledge with thanks one of the greatest teachers and mentors, Professor D.D. Oyebola, is here seated, for your support support and encouragement. He taught me renal physiology at both undergraduate and postgraduate level, and I carry this legacy around the entire country. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, when the going was tough, when it was like the end had come, my teacher, mentor, and a role model, Professor Adeyombo Folashade Bolarinwa, a teacher of teachers, a mentor of mentors, a professor of professors, and a mother par excellence, was there for me, and she is still always there for me. She is seated in this hall. Sometimes in 2011, she told me she would love to retire at age 65 instead of at 70, provided my promotion to the rank of professor was announced. Mama kept to her words by retiring from the services of this university at 66, a few months after the 2010 chair we are celebrating today was announced. The unflinching support and love I've always received from you, ma, and your darling Duke, Daddy, Architect Ayodeji Olusola Bolarinwa, seated here also, can only be rewarded by God Almighty. I cannot thank you enough. Neither can I appreciate you and your family enough. God in his infinite mercies will continue to bless you and your family abundantly. I appreciate it with thanks the support of all members of staff of the Department of Physiology, University of Ibadan, right from the most senior professor now, Professor A.R. Alada, Professor Fasamade, Professor Laleye, the Dean, Professor Adewoye, down to the last person in the department. I recognize you. I thank you most sincerely. Give God all the glory for what we have been able to achieve together in the development of our Department of Physiology. Within my first 2 years as head, together we shall take the department to greater height. I must specially appreciate members of my research unit, reproduction and developmental programming. Dr. Olufadekemi Kunle Alabi, Dr. Oriofe Akindele, they work closely with me. I thank you most sincerely. I thank my colleague, my first PhD and friend, Professor F. Olayemi. I thank all other mentees, all other my other academic mentees, right from Dr. Akinsomi Soye, the head of Department of Physiology of Obafemi Awolowo, University Ile-Ife, Dr. Salami Lasukom, Dr. Yeyipo, the Dean, Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences, Osun State University, Dr. Obembe, Dr. Oyekunle in the United States, Dr. Jeje, HOD Physiology, Futa Akure, Dr. Oyeyemi, Igbinedo University Okada, Dr. Eda Akinola, Mrs. Oladokun, all of you, you are duly recognized. Thank you for being partners in progress. I will forever appreciate the support I received from the late Imam of the University of Ibadan, Dr. Dawood Tijani Adikilekun. May Allah continue to make Al-Jannah Firdaus his abode. His tutelage, compassion, humility, and accessibility remain exceptional. He stood firmly with me during the thick and thin. May all he left behind continue to flourish. I thank the current Imam of the University of Ibadan, Muslim community, Professor Abraman Oloyede, for his prayers, support, and leadership. I will forever remain grateful to the entire Muslim community of the university for their support and prayers. I appreciate my primary school and secondary school teachers, especially Mr. Gani, whose divine intervention for my primary school education remain in my memory. All my teachers are duly appreciated. I want to specially thank Federation of Ede Land Students Union, University of Ibadan, for your love and support all the years. I was once a member of the union. I thank all members of Ede Muslim Grammar School Students Association, and I want to appreciate profusely the University of Ibadan Physiology Alumni Group under the leadership of Professor Bolanle Iranloye. I want to thank all dignitaries that are seated here today from Ede under the leadership of, I can recognize Professor Yeweso. I can recognize Alhaji Kola Alimi. I thank you most sincerely. I appreciate the love and support of my childhood friends and brothers, Alhaji Mustafa Kasim, Musti Farms, Nigeria Limited, Dr. Sarafaddin O. Ibrahim and family in the United States, and several others. I thank all members of the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences and of College of Medicine, University of Ibadan for all your support and encouragement over the years. I'm particularly grateful to Professor T.K. Amsat and Drs. Kunle Alabi and Akindele, who read through the manuscript and made useful suggestions. Mr. Sheid Shitu worked with me in the preparation of the slides. I wish to thank the former Dean, Professor Ademowo, and the current Dean, Professor S.B. Olaleye, Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences, for nomination to deliver this lecture. I also thank Professor Shokunbi and Professor Migbodun for their encouragement and support over the years. I thank the 11th Provost, Professor Eniola Oluwabunmi Olopade Olaopa, who was my senior colleague at the Philadelphia Institute of FEMA, for his support and encouragement. I thank Professor Denloye, his deputy. I acknowledge with thanks support for research and travels from different bodies as listed. I'm grateful to all members of the FEMA family. Up to today, I'm still being mentored because I was given, before we finished the program, a live mentor in person of Professor Jim Hallock. I want to acknowledge with thanks Professor Yonglian Chan and our team in Shanghai, China, for granting me space and support to carry out some studies in their laboratory. I acknowledge with thanks all my research collaborators. I thank all members of my primary professional society, the Physiological Society. I wish to thank my wife for her love, endurance, and uncommon support. May Almighty Allah bless you abundantly. I thank my lovely children, Zainab, Mohammed, Idris, and Salim. I love you more than you can imagine. I will love you forever. I wish to thank the former Vice Chancellor, Honorable Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Folonso Adewole, and all the former Deputy Vice Chancellors. I am grateful to the current Vice Chancellor, Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka, and my brother, Professor Yinka Aderito, the DPC academic, for their special interest in my progress, success, for their support and encouragement over the years. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you very much. I thank all other members of the university management, the DVC admin, Professor Adebowale, the DVC reps, Professor Adeyema, the registrar, Mrs. Olubumi Faluyi, the university librarian, Dr. Opadeji, and the bursar, Mr. Alatise, for their support at all times. I acknowledge with thanks the gentlemen of the press. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I want to acknowledge with thanks all others that I may have inadvertently missed out in my list. God will reward you bountifully. To God be the glory. I thank you all for the benevolence of your rapt attention.